Communications Through Phones by Ethan McClaren. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell was awarded the first U.S. patent for the invention of the telephone. On March 10, 1876, Bell told his assistant, Mr. Watson, "Come here, I want to see you." Ever since, there has been countless new models made and the use has grown exponentially. June 25, 1876, Bell exhibited his telephone at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia. The invention got a lot of attention and was soon announced to the general public. Many high figures in the world at that time had seen the invention, including the Emperor Dom Pedro II of Brazil and Lord Kelvin. Over the years, phones have not only allowed people to communicate through calls and texts, but in 2021, phones have access to the internet and are able to communicate to even more people throughout social media. The first payphone was installed by inventor William Gray and developed by George A. Long at a bank in Hartford, Connecticut in 1889. Not only did this allow many people to communicate on the street, but it raked in a lot of money, and even in 2015, the FCC reports that payphones made $286 million, meaning that this still is used as a form of communication. The first telephone appeared in Wisconsin in 1877, when a banker named Alfred Galpin ran a line from his residence to the bank. Several months later, he built a switchboard for 25 telephones in Appleton. In the 1920s, since telephones weren't that common, companies started to offer pre-wiring in new home construction, saving them time and money for installing telephones after their home was built. Builders would include a telephone niche in the front of the hallway so that every home would have easy access to the telephone. In 1920s, it started to become a new normal, and though only 35% of homes had phones at the time, this continued to grow, and in 2008, 95% of homes have phones. On April 3, 1973, Motorola was the first company to mass produce the first handheld mobile phone. After the first mobile cell phone demonstration, it took a decade before the phones were able to be bought. The Motorola Dynatac 8000X hit the market in 1983, and the price was $4,000. This new and improved model revolutionized phones, and many models made after were handheld, just like the Motorola. The first smartphone was created by IBM in 1992 and released for purchase in 1994. Its name was the Simon Personal Communicator, or SPC. Even though it wasn't that compact and sleek, the device still featured many elements that became staples to the smartphones that we have today. This also revolutionized phones and what we have today. Then there was a period of low cost during the 90s and early 2000s with early camera phones. But it wasn't until the year 2000 that smartphones were able to connect to a 3G network. This allowed phones to connect to the internet wirelessly, just like a computer, and made people want them even more. Fast forward to 2007, when one of the most influential models for smartphones were made. This was the year Steve Jobs revealed the very first iPhone. It was a very sleek touchscreen device that hit the market. It was also the first device that offered a full version of the internet. Ever since that first release, Apple has consistently dropped new iPhones almost every year. It is shown that nearly 80% of all time on social media is on mobile devices. This shows that smartphones not only help people call and text, but it also showed a new way of communication through social media. This change made many businesses flock to social media. They wanted to learn how to become more interactive with consumers on these apps. Almost everybody has social media, including the President of the United States. And as of today, our President has said many controversial things on social media, and it is clear to see that social media and phones have changed the course of history easily. But phones aren't only for talking for your friends. In the event of an emergency, having a cell phone is very important and could possibly save lives. As of now, modern day cell phones are capable of internet access, taking pictures and sending important files, and most phones has GPS technology, allowing for use in most locations around the world, and allowing cell phones to be found or the user to be found in case they get lost or they're in an emergency. Also, authorities have used phones and the data within them to solve and build their cases on criminals. During the time that Motorola's came out, it was 9 years before the Great Depression, and this caused many phone companies to close. And during the time of the Great Depression, there was around 6,000 phones compared to 2021 when you can't go anywhere without seeing a phone in someone's hand. This means the Great Depression limited the usage and communication through cell phones, also limiting the production. The economic standpoint of the US when phones were first coming out wasn't stable. Therefore, the development of phones was negatively impacted. My topic is so important because phones are used in everyday life. Without phones, the US and the world would be completely different today. The average person picks up their phone around every 10 minutes. And the usage of a phone varies, from simple things to calling your friends to sending important documents, and can even help you save a life. That's why phones are so crucial to the communication that we have now.